welcome to Ad America, the U.S. Embassy's American Center, with me, Andrea, as your e-guide for today. Today, the ability to communicate clearly and confidently is very crucial, which is why in today's event, Mastering Communication for Academic and Career Success, we have gathered an incredible lineup of facilitators who will share their insights, experiences, and tips to master the art of communication. But before we start our event for today, I have a little trivia question for you to answer. Which of the following is not a key component of effective communication? Is it A, active listening, B, clear and concise expression, C, ignoring nonverbal cues, or D, appropriate tone and language? If you think you know the answer, you can submit your answer to our social media platforms, and the first person who is able to answer correctly will be receiving a shout out later in the very end of the event. So now I would like to pass the mic to our moderator for today. She is our Education USA advisor here at America. Please welcome Mela Tupono.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, everyone. Hi. Okay, good afternoon to evening. I hope you guys are having a great day. Okay. Thank you, Andrea, for introducing me. Again, my name is May. I'm one of the Education USA advisors here at America. Did you guys know what Education USA is? Or ever heard about Education USA? I heard a yes from 3 people or less. Okay, so Education USA is an advising network from U.S. Department of State. Here in Indonesia, we have 8 centers in total. And one of them is here at America. And we are here to help you guys. If you have a plan to study in the U.S., we can help you by consulting with us, talking, discussing, and also we can help you probably with your application forms or requirements. So we're here. And one of the things that we also do, if you see over there, we have, 7 centers with 9 advisors. And if you guys want to talk to us or meet us, you can also go there to scan the barcode or to the website, calendly.com, to book an appointment with us and talk to us about your plan to study in the US. So today, joining me, there are 3 wonderful speakers joining us for today, and we're going to talk more about mastering communications for academic and career success. So are you guys excited? Yes. Okay. Yes. We have here Pradita, Mas Yoga, and DJ. And I will give the floor first to Pradita.
Okay, check. Thank you very much, Kak May, for introducing me. So hi, everyone. My name is Pradita Agustina, and you can call me Dita. So I feel like this topic is quite, the theme here is quite heavy, right? It's like mastering communication. It seems like we are the master of communication, but in fact, we are still learning as well, but perhaps we can have some one things or two that we can share with you. So maybe we can go to the next slide. Oh, I hold this one. So yeah, my name is Dita. I'm currently working in DGO Fiscal Balance, Ministry of Finance. I guess you guys know about Ministry of Finance, right? So DGO Fiscal Balance is one of the unit below the Ministry of Finance. And I was working as the Public Relations Officer for 4 years before, and now I am a Regional Data Assistant. And also, I am a YSEALI PFP Fellows 2023, and this is the event, the fellowship that made me meet with DJ here. So he is the US Fellow of my fellowship. I was placed in Boston at Issues Management Group, which is DJ's office. So I am also involved previously with Ministry of Finance Toastmasters Club and also Voice Indonesia, and these are 2 public speaking community that I am involved with. And then I want to talk a little bit about communication. So I want to ask you guys in here, what do you think when I say communication? Anyone want to try to say something? Communication, what crossed your mind when I say communication? Pretend that you don't see any explanation in here, okay? So it's like anything that you have in mind about communication? The window to the soul. That's beautiful. Thank you very much to the beautiful lady there. Anyone? Okay? Talking with each other. That's right. So let's say in talking and communicating, we are sharing information from us to other people. Either it's one people or more, we are sharing information. So we have this important aspect, which is information, and we also have other parties that we want to deliver the information with, right? And then effective communication is a skill that can be learned and refined through practice and self-awareness. So if you see here, we have effective communication. So communication only, learning about communication only is not enough for you. Actually, if you want to excel in your career and also your academics, because at some points in life, perhaps we will hear from our other two speakers in here. If you want to master your, let's say, academics and also professional career, you will need your communication skill more than the other. So, but the good thing is that we can learn and refine it through self-awareness and also practice. And at some points, it can take you a long time to get into that point of improving your communication skill, because I have a lot of experience of improving my own communication skill, and it took me like years, perhaps like 5 years, for the most important part and also the most critical part of learning about communication. And also, communication plays a pivotal role in shaping culture and driving success. I think you all agree that at some points people say that good leaders are good communicators, right? Because it takes you a good, effective communication skill to become a good leader. And I found one interesting fact in here. This is based on one of the research. They say that research showed that only 15% of financial success came from technical skills or actual knowledge, and the rest, 85%, came from the ability to communicate with others, both when speaking and listening effectively. So you see here, communication is not only about how you deliver your ideas, but it's also how about you effectively listening. Because when you want to deliver something, you have to know what you want to deliver. That's why we need that kind of effective listening skill to know what we want to deliver to other people. So why is it important? So why do we have like 3 people here talking about mastering communication at all? So of course, the first one, because we need to. So we have needs. As human, we want to request help and then inform others and share attitudes for bonding. Communication is so important. So that's why, and basically as human, we need to communicate because we have needs. For example, if you want to buy something from the stall and you need to say something about that. I want that one, I want this one. You need to communicate, right? You have information, you have needs that you want to deliver to ask from other people. So that's why we can say that communication is really important in life. And beyond that, there will always be moments where you are required to speak or at least deliver ideas or information. So I want to know how many people here who are still students. Okay, have you ever been asked to present something, asked by your teachers, right? Because there will always be moments you are required to speak, and especially when you are working. We're all workers in here, and we do witness how important it is to have good communication skill, because in life, for example, in my office, I am asked to present something, I have to moderate a meeting or something like that. So it's like, there will always be moments when you are required to speak. That's why you need to be more aware about how important it is and how you can do it effectively. Not only how to communicate, but also effectively communicate. So this is some types of communication. The first one is verbal. I believe that you guys have been aware about this. Like the verbal is when we use the language, like when what I am doing currently. I am talking to you with English. I'm using my language. And then also non-verbal communication, like written communication. You write, you type, or print something like symbols. This is also part of the communication. So how? This is actually, I only have one tips, the basic tips of communication, especially personally, if you want to communicate something. You have to speak. To speak, you must first find your voice. And what is by voice mean here? What voice means here actually? So it's like, you need to know what you want to deliver when you speak. So for example, I am standing here, I want to deliver something to you. What will I say if I don't know what I want to say here? So I have to know what I want to deliver. This is my voice because I feel like communication is important. We have to learn about communication more profoundly. That is my voice, that's my calling, and that's why I deliver it here. So that's the voice that I have. And also, the second thing that is important in finding your voice is to understand the question or problem if you are communicating in terms of answering. So I learned this so much when I was in my duty in the past 4 years. So I was a call center agent in Ministry of Finance previously, like for 4 years from 2018 until 2022. So during my time here, my stakeholders are local governments in Indonesia. We have like 546 local governments. And at the time, they ask us, they call us to ask about the regulation on regional finance. I need to know all of the regulations, like hundreds of regulations. And also I have to deliver it in a way that they will understand. It is not an easy task. At some points, there are some moments where I don't really understand what they want to ask. I don't really understand what the problem is. So the very first thing that I need to learn at the time was to actively listening, to really understand, okay, what is this person calling me is actually asking? Because if I don't understand the question, I can never answer that question. So that is the very first thing to learn about communication, especially when you're interacting with people, especially when you are communicating in terms of answering people. You need to understand the question. What is the question that they ask? And then after that, you can confirm if you don't understand. Because I do this quite a lot when I was answering the phone calls. And I was like, pardon me, can you repeat again, what do you need? Or what is actually that you are asking? And then I confirm many times, at times, about what they are asking, because at some points we have this kind of like language barriers as well, because my stakeholders, like local governments, we have like communication, language barriers as well. So it's like pretty hard to really understand. And if you have confirm about the questions that they want to ask, you can start to process it. Okay, with this kind of question, with this kind of need that the people ask me, what kind of information that I should provide them with? So this is the third step in answering and in communicating, especially when you answer questions. And then if you have processed the question, you compose that answer. So this is something that I learned. So the basic is actually only to actively listen. Try to understand as much as you can, understand as good as you can. And until then, you can give the best answer to that. So this is actually one of the steps that was really hard for me. So I grew up as a shy person. Maybe you can see it not right now because I feel a little bit like shy and I pretend that I am not. But in fact, I was a very shy person when I was little. I still remember how trembled I was when I have to sing in front of the class or presenting when I was in elementary school. That was hard. So I want to know how many of you that consider yourself as an introvert. Oh, we have many introverts in here. Okay. So do you feel shy when you are required to speak in front of people? Right? Even though I believe that introvert and extrovert at some points doesn't really relate with your ability to speak. But at some points, I agree that I feel shy when I was little. And it was really hard for me to turn into someone who can speak in front of the people. It's really hard. It was really hard. So the very first thing that I built when I made that kind of transition from personal communication to public speaking was the confidence. Because confidence was something that I don't have since I was a little. I grew up as a shy person. I grew up as a shy and also like a reserved person. I don't really like talking to people when I was little. And I was like, okay, I will just be alone, something like that. So the very first thing is confidence. Because you see, sometimes we just don't believe that we can speak with people, especially in English, because English is not our native language. So it's really hard for me to learn about how to speak English, especially in front of many people. So the very first thing is confidence. How do I learn about confidence? The very first thing, I joined some community. So I was in, I think I will go here first. The very first one, I joined this club, Ministry of Finance Toastmasters Club. This is a club, Toastmasters Club is actually a club that you can find anywhere. It's under one educational organization. So I joined this club, and this club you are required to give some kind of like impromptu speech for 1 until 2 minutes in each meeting. So it was really hard because we do public speaking, we speak in front of many people, and for a beginner like me, it was really hard. So back then, in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, because I feel like I don't have enough confidence for this one. This was so, at some points, feel intimidating at the time. Because everyone sounds so fluent, everyone sounds so good at English. I feel like I don't have the confidence to be here. So I try to find any other way to improve my confidence. I joined the second community, Voice Indonesia. So this community let us to learn about speaking by sending voice notes. So they give some kind of like triggers every day through WhatsApp voice note at the time, and then I have to answer. And day by day, little by little, I started to grow my confidence because I practiced myself on speaking. Because at the time, I am using voice notes, so you don't really have to see people, right? I think it's pretty convenient. And then after some months of doing that, I started to gain my confidence. And that's when I feel like I have enough courage to go back to this community again. And I strive with these two communities, and also to beat my fear of public speaking and communication. So it was pretty hard for me. It took me like, yeah, perhaps like 3 or 4 years to really make myself be more confident in speaking. So I'm going to go back here. So the first one is confidence. Even if you feel like, I don't think I have enough capacity, enough ability to speak in front of many people, just try to believe that you actually can. You actually have the ability. And the second one, preparation. Preparation is something that can get you feel like, I think I am confident about this because I have prepared this. So after you have the confidence, you also need this preparation, because especially when you speak in front of many people, you will need to prepare to find your voice, just like what I told you before. And to find the voice at some points, it's not easy, because at some points you will need to really think deliberately about what you want to deliver. So prepare yourself. And the third one, structure. And this is something that I learned like lately about the structure in public speaking and delivering your ideas. For example, if you want to deliver a speech, you need an opening, and then the body, and then the closing, and something like that. So in public speaking, it's actually just, you only need your communication ability, and you add with these 3 aspects. And hopefully that's enough for you to speak in front of many people. Why we need that? Because why it seems so, let's say, pretty much challenging to speak in front of many people? Because we have bigger audiences, we have more barriers, and we have more structures. I think DJ will talk about the barriers more after this. And as the bigger audiences, you see, I have you as my audiences, and this is not easy to speak in front of many people. And also, more structures needed so that the idea that you want to deliver can be well delivered. Sometimes structure will help you to really shape your idea and also to get it into the audiences. The real confident part, I have talked about this, and this is, the very first one is to trust in your own ability. I know it sounds a little bit like, it's so easy to say that. Just believe in yourself, right? It's something that people often say, but it's not really easy to practice, right? It's not that easy to put your confidence like all of a sudden, but try it. I would suggest you to try it, because at some points you just need to do some kind of like self-talk to yourself, the positive talk. And I believe it works on me really well to put some kind of like positive talk to myself. And prepare well and practice. This is one of the key to deliver some kind of like your ideas better. If you have more practice and more preparation, it will get you into a better presentation. And also be self-aware and real. So this is one of the things that I also try to practice when I was still learning, and I'm still learning until now, is you need to know what kind of mistakes that you usually make, or what kind of like the things that you need to improve. For example, I tend to use some kind of like filler words like or something like that, and I believe many of us do that, right? It's not easy to eliminate the and because I just use it in my presentation here, and it took a lot of practice to do that. So you need to be self-aware of what kind of filler words that I usually use, what kind of things that I usually do when I speak. For example, I tend to speak like this. I don't open my body. Oh, that's one of the things that I need to improve. So be self-aware and then drill on the things that you need to improve. So this is the community that I told you before. One thing that I want to add is that community help. So you can find, I think, even if you come to this kind of event like at America here, it can help you to improve your communication skill because you try to listen, right? You are listening here. So this is one of the way that you can improve your communication skill. And also communities help because you will find similar person like you. It's like you can find people who are actually learning too, and it can give you some kind of like motivation to be more motivated and also to find some kind of like spirit to go with them. So it's like I would suggest you try to find any communities that feels like, oh, I think I am interested with this community because community will help you to improve yourself. So the last thing I want to say is that you've got to be able to communicate in life. This is from Warren Buffett, and it's enormously important. Schools, to some extent, underemphasize that. If you can communicate and talk to other people and get across your ideas, it's not that you cannot live if you're not communicating well, but you're giving up your potential. Because there are many things that in life, in your work, in your academic life, that can be bolstered and also it can be improved if you have good communication skill. Because just like what I said previously, good leaders are good communicators. So I think that's all from me. Back to you, Kami.
Thank you. Yes. All right. I think we're gonna save the Q&A session for the last part. We can continue to our second presentation from Mas Yoga. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. So, how are you, introverts? And for online audience, wherever you are, thanks for having me at America, and thanks for inviting me, Dita. So, Dita did excellent job at presenting about the why and how of the communication in general, and my job here is to narrow down about the why communication matters. It's actually about how my presentation is. So I came with the idea that with these 4 words, if there like some, if there were 4 words that you should remember from my presentation, that's it. Clear, concise, connecting and conditioning. And let's start. So, okay, that's a little things about me. I start with C, so I continue with C, credentials. I'm fortunately was selected as a vice president in my high school public policy as VP in Public Management Policy Student Association. Fortunately, I was also selected as Minister of Finance Employee of the Year in 2019 and was trusted with my friend who now is a director in National Research Agency, Bang Wisnu, to co-found this Minister of Finance Toastmaster Club, a club that Dita talked about previously. And I also served as Investor Relations Officer back in 2017 and 2023. So let's start with, okay, I want to ask, like, how many of you aspire to have a scholarship in the future? Cool. So I'm in the right place. You are in the right place. So hopefully this presentation is useful for you and also for you guys watching online. So how to be clear? Unfortunately, no other than spending time with your application, with your draft. So the objective of communication essentially is to get your message across. Am I right? So to get your message across, the first thing you do is to be clear. So clarity is one of the most important things. And how to be clear? You should have clear structure, organization, and elaboration of your idea. And in this campus application context, which is mostly SIs, you have to be, you have to spend some time sitting and working with this structure, and then keep refining and revising. Always remember that first draft is always a mess. First draft is always a mess. Remember that. Second draft, still a mess. When you get to like fifth draft or fifth revision, then it starts to look good. But don't ever believe in your first draft. I've written several pieces of article in national media, and also I've read some many tips by famous writers, and the common denominator is the same. Don't ever believe in your first draft because it's always a mess. And keep refining and revising it. Ask for feedback from your peers, from your superiors, your friends, even strangers. Strangers important that to again to get your message across to the public in general. I mean to improve your readability because sometimes, especially if the topics that involve many technicalities or technical language, you have to adapt or fine tune your language to a level that public in general can understand that. And in this application is it should be understandable enough for the selection committee, but also should be understandable enough for the panelists, the interviewer. So in the interview process, how to be clear? Be clear on setting your purpose. So this is the things that where the common mistakes happen. Scholarship or applying for scholarship is about actually to align with the sponsors objective, which in general basically they want you to address or solve some issues around you. And then with that, they want you to upgrade yourself by studying either here or abroad or have non-degree or like short course to upgrade yourself to deal with the issue. And then you talk about the contribution plan. My mistake in my first and second attempt of my LPDP scholarship is about the second point here. I'm stating about my personal motives. I will talk about it later. And when you're doing interview, you should answer your each question with key phrases and sentences and follow up with elaboration. You got what I mean, right? Like, why do you take this public policy a measure? First, it's aligned with what I do, what I'm doing here in Ministry of Finance, and elaborate. Two, um, I'm interested in the topic of human capital because blah, 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 blah. So the key phrases first and then the elaborations follows. So why is that? In order for the panelists to be able to follow your message clearly and easily. The second thing about clear in essay, So when I frequently review an application from my friends or my juniors, some of them do not have deletes or subtopics in their essay. They just paragraph after paragraph and after paragraph. It's okay, but not recommended. Why? Because imagine that interviewers have like 20 applicants at the day. So one of your job is to make their job easier. One of them to make your essay read easier, to make them easy to follow your ideas. One of them is to make leads or subtopics. So it's about the structure again, the structure and the organization of your ideas and message. So this is about the big no in the interview process about the clarity of a statement of your. Anybody want to spot why this statement is a big no? The hint is we discussed it in the previous slide. Actually, my mistake in anybody? So you said that this applicant didn't say the objective clearly.
Yeah, because the participant then stated on why they have to study abroad and why it did match with the alignment of the objective for the scholarship awardee.
Correct. But the main problem is the first half of the sentence here. I have been dreaming of studying abroad. It's personal motive. It's factual, it's true, it's correct, but it's not recommended at all in interview. Why? Because in scholarship application, it's actually about the sponsor's vision and mission and objective. So eliminate as much as possible the things about you. In Indonesia is keakuan. So eliminate these selfish, egoish, selfish things. It's factual, it's true, but the interview is about first is about you getting your message across, but it's also about the impression of the panelists, and this is a big no. It's really
Those
really
type
bad
of
for
people,
to create a good
challenges,
impression for the
problems, and
panelists.
potential
Let me
might
continue.
be
Concise, a brevity, to be brief, to communicate or to speak and write concisely is much more difficult than to speak or write at length. Why? Because if you speak at length, you can write or speak as much as you can, right? But to be concise, again, you need to spend some more time reviewing, refining your draft. The tagline of the in the writing tips is "kill your darling." So basically, you have to delete or eliminate or get rid of the things that you think important, the lines within the paragraph that you think is important, or the words in the one line that you think is important, but it's actually not. Why is it hard? Kill your darlings. If you kill your enemy, it's easy, right? So that's why they say kill your darlings. That's the example that I took from enchantingmarketing.com. When I started my own business, it has given me a whole new perspective to see the bigger picture when it comes to finding a work-life balance. lengthy line, which basically you can say just starting my own business has given me a new perspective on work-life balance. That's it. On the interview, how to be concise, no other than preparation specifically on have mock-up interviews. One of my weaknesses is, even though I'm self-claiming introvert, I tend to speak at length. I did realize it, but I didn't do quite much about it. And my mentor um, gave me the comment and hit me in the heart when they say, Yoga, you tend to speak at length, very long. So you have to be concise, more concise in your answers. And it takes me at least 3 mock-up interviews to be more concise in my lines, in my answers to the each question given by my partner. So I started feeling comfortable when it got to 4th mock-up. I did a 5 mock-up interview for my LPDP application. My 3rd attempt, actually I did 5th attempt on scholarship, and yeah, that's why. I was successful in my 5th attempt. So I failed a lot, and I hope you can learn but through my failures, and perhaps at your 1st or 2nd attempt, you got it. Amen to that. Amin? Nggak ada yang amin? Amin. Connect. So clear, concise, connect. How do we connect with our sponsors? So there are actually some ways to connect. The first one is to connect your present to your future. Your current job, your current situation, or aspiration if you haven't worked yet, like fresh graduate, to the future, which is your study, and your contribution plan after study. That should be connected in your essay and the way you explain it in the interview. So this is one of my example. I just copy paste from my essay. So basically, I try to connect here that the thesis that I'm intending to write at Harris School at U Chicago is actually about this, and connect with the things I do at work and with that will I do in the future. And the second things to connect is about to connect to distinct qualities of the study program, for example, that the program you're applying for. So this is, I underline that I saw, I try to show them my efforts. I've looked around, I did my research, and the distinct characters of the school and program that I'm applying for is the strong emphasis on the quantitative analysis, such as economics and statistics, a quality that usually not strongly featured by other universities' MPP program. It's not even Paris, It's not. I wasn't exaggerating, because University of Chicago is well known for its quantitative quality. They are home to many Nobel laureates in economics, in natural science, and so on and so forth. Still about connect. So again, how to be, worthy in the eyes of the sponsor? You have to connect with their vision, mission, and values. For example, LPDP, competitive human resources in global competition, which means you should master a foreign language, one of them. English at least, but also future leaders. Kak, Mas, I am a fresh graduate. I didn't quite enough experience in student body. It's okay. Mention about your experience in a committee, kepanitiaan. Mas, I didn't have any experience in kepanitiaan, committee. I mean, leadership is about responsibility. Taking charge is about taking care of the people around you. If you are a breadwinner of your family, if you're teaching here and there, write it. It's leadership. Leadership is not about position. It's about taking care of people around you and take the responsibility. So that's leadership. If you're a breadwinner of your family and you do your best to support them by having like multiple jobs other than studying, write it. And to connect with future contribution, it should be smart, specific. I think it's a bit cliche. I think you know a lot about this, but I repeat again: specific, measurable, attainable, relevance, and within time bound of time frame. This one of examples. You explained about your short-term contribution plan. For example, in my case, conducting research and conducting FGD. And also in the medium terms, I try to developing some program in my office, while also assisting a draft in ministerial regulation or so on and so forth about things that are related with your case. So I think this is one of my 2 slides, communication in the professional setting. So thankfully, I was trusted in quite several occasions to be an MC international events. And here's I arrive at my last C. So clear, concise, connecting, and conditioning, which is basically about preparation. So preparation, everyone, always matters. Preparation, at least half of the success of your objectives. How do I prepare? I always prepare a well-prepared script. And then I did enough rehearsal. In some lines involving the titles or the name of VVIP, such as minister or ambassador, I rehearse it as much as possible till I feel comfortable and 0 mistakes, or perhaps minimum mistakes. Why? You don't want to mess up with titles or names with ministers or ambassadors. And it's not just about your reputation, but it's also about the reputation, the institution that you represent. So Obama said, don't take yourself seriously, but take the job seriously. How to be conditioned? Again, the third is coming at least 1 hour before the event starts. That's usually I do. This time, I didn't come 1 hour before, I came 45 minutes. But this conditioning is important for me. So I have to, if I am emceeing, I have to know where the mic stand, where the audience is. Is the sound system working? Where do I stand? Should I take just the standing mic, or do I hold the microphone with me? Things like that. So I have the control, the things that I can control. Even though I always ready to improvise and adjust, because the rundown revision just always come. The switch, the addition, the elimination of some revisions. So I have to be ready I have to be spontaneous and adjust myself down the road. And I think if I expect
1 minute?
1 minute. Okay, so I think, I don't know, I was hesitating, but I would like to do a reality check here. I want to ask my audience, is my message clear enough for you? Is my message concise enough?
Yes.
Are you connected to my presentation? And do I have enough conditioning for my presentation? Or do I appear so? Okay, not really. But at least I got some my, mission accomplished. So I would be happy to hear your question during the Q&A, and again, happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas Yoga. All right, DJ. Are you ready?
Hello, everybody. I am not an introvert. I'm an extrovert, so cannot join that group. Give it a moment when we pull the presentation. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm very excited to be here as well. So thank you, Dita and Yoga, for those presentations. My presentation will have a little bit of overlap with those two, but I will also be talking a little bit about kind of the professional communications realm. So we'll get into a little bit of what comes after your academic success there. So a little bit about me. I graduated college in 2021. I had a mediated communications major and a minor in political science, so I'm very familiar with these two topics. I currently work at a political communications firm called Issues Management Group in Boston, Massachusetts. We focus mostly on real estate and healthcare. Essentially, we are a middleman for private companies who are looking to achieve goals in politics and also just in communications in general. So kind of what I want to talk about first is some overview of what communications is, how communications is used, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics as well after that. So first and foremost, I know we've covered this now twice. What is communication? Communication is everything. It's anything from a phone call to a smile to a shrug to anything that you do towards somebody that is sending a message. So it's really everywhere. It's a very important thing to make sure you understand completely. I want to talk a little bit about professional communications today more specifically, but before we do that, I wanted to quickly highlight what the difference between colloquialism and professionalism is. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that word colloquialism before. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, but essentially what colloquialism is slang and familiar language that you would use with your friends, maybe your family, and it's more reserved for people that you're very familiar with, not very appropriate in the workplace, I would say, or in an academic setting when you're talking to a professor or your peers, as it can often be perceived as quite unprofessional. So we try to avoid colloquialism as much as we can in this setting. In terms of professionalism is inevitably rooted in respect. It's a respect for the person you're communicating with, for the institution that you are representing, for yourself and your brand that you're representing. So it's all essentially under the umbrella of respect for certain things. In order to communicate professionally, you need to be able to understand the situation that you're in, whether it be in an academic setting, be in the setting of your job, your career, or even just a one-on-one conversation with somebody who demands a professional conversation or a professional environment. So understanding the situation that you're in and being able to adapt to that situation is incredibly important for these communications. Another thing that you need to be able to do is understand your goal of the conversation, and it varies tremendously based on who you're talking to and what you're trying to achieve. If you're talking to a professor and you're looking to get more information about an essay that you're writing or an assignment that you have, understanding what that goal is to be able to communicate that effectively is very important, as well as if you're advocating on behalf of a client like I do on a daily basis, understanding what my client needs to get done and being able to communicate that on their behalf is important. So being able to understand that goal is how you would go from point A to point B in communication. And I included these 5 C's of professional conversations up here, just kind of as a reminder. I try to live by these. The 5 C's would be remain comfortable, keep everything comfortable, confidence. Confidence is incredibly important. Whether you feel confident or not, it's important to look confident when you're talking professionally. Your credibility, which lies in a multitude of different things, including your role, your attire, the way you conduct yourself, your confidence, all of these things contribute to your credibility. Which goes hand in hand with your competence as well. If you show up and you look like you know what you're doing and know what you're talking about, you appear more competent, which helps further your professionalism in other people's eyes, and remaining controlled, staying on task, making sure you know what you need to talk about, and making sure you're not straying from your communications goals too much. So let's talk about a couple of benefits of effective communication. effective communication can do things like boost your relationships, reduce conflicts, increase productivity, eliminate miscommunications. All these things are goals that you're trying to achieve with your communications, and effective communicators are able to recognize that these are the benefits and work towards those benefits from point A to point B by using some of the strategies that I'll talk about in a moment. But these are all things to keep in mind about why it's important to have effective communications here. So before we get into that, I know Dita had mentioned some of these barriers to communication. I think this is incredibly important for those of you who are looking to get a scholarship and possibly study in the United States. A lot of these will become increasingly more prevalent in areas where English might not be your first language and you're traveling and you're experiencing them. Things like the language barriers, emotional barriers, cultural barriers, all things that you would experience traveling on the other side of the earth to the United States or somewhere else to go study. Understanding these barriers and recognizing them is critical to your success, to be able to take these head on. They're going to be there, but you need to know that they are there, recognize them, don't be afraid of them, and take those challenges head on to be able to overcome them. And yeah, challenging yourself and recognizing it is the first step. They're scary, but they're easy to overcome if you know what to do. So let's talk about a couple of those ways to overcome barriers. I think yoga covered it very perfectly. Preparation is key. Preparation is always key, whether it be for an official presentation like this, or even just a conversation with somebody in a language that you're not very familiar with or not used to using. Being able to prepare gives you the tools you need to feel like you achieved your goals. Patience and understanding not only for yourself. When you provide the patience and understanding to other people, they'd be more willing to provide that back to you. So being able to understand that everybody is experiencing these barriers and these challenges, and overcoming them together is very important to recognize. Remaining flexible. Everybody always feels like they have a plan when they go into something, and it rarely turns out exactly the way that they planned it to. So remaining flexible is very important. You need to be able to move on a dime and figure out how to overcome these barriers that pop up out of nowhere. Sometimes you never expect them, and they come up. So that's always important. And I've covered practice and confidence a few times. I can't stress that enough. Even if you don't feel confident, remain confident and project confidence, and it kind of comes with the territory. The more that you project it, the easier it is to feel like you are confident. So quickly, before I get into some of the academic and professional communications, I want to just make a quick plug on social media. People tend to not think of social media as traditional communication, but we have all kind of grown up in an age where social media is a major part of our daily communications. It's everywhere. It can help and it can hurt us, especially in times when we want to be doing things like applying for colleges or getting jobs. As a form of communication, everything on social media reflects on you. Your name is assigned to that. It's part of your brand. It's important to conduct yourself in the same way that you would conduct yourself in a face-to-face conversation as you do on social media. All it takes is one Google search for an employer or a college to find something on social media that you maybe didn't want them to see. So that would be something just to remind yourself. Even when you're communicating behind a screen or in person, it's still your brand that you're reflecting. You yourself are a brand, and you want to make sure that everything out there that has your name on it reflects how you want it to reflect. So on top of that, it's a much wider audience base too. As opposed to me talking to the 20 of you, 30 of you here, you could be talking to thousands of people at one time. So it's very easy to reach mass audiences with that, and just to keep things in mind when you're communicating with those audiences. So I'm going to talk about 3 aspects of effective communications. They are word choice, tone, and nonverbal body language. Word choice, the first and foremost, I think is the most obvious one here. There are 4 different aspects of word choice, or buckets, that I would consider for different word choices: decisive, tentative, positive, and prescriptive. You've seen examples of all of these. I would say that decisive and positive are close together. Tentative and prescriptive are close together as well. Just different ways that you decide to choose words, and how that it greatly affects the final message of your communication. It dictates things like flow, intensity, attentiveness, urgency. For example, if I came here and I said, you must do this, you have to do this, it has a very different connotation than if I came to you and said, would you mind doing this? Could you please do this? It greatly affects how you are portraying a message, how the person receives the message, and what the back and forth is going to be like. Typically, a more aggressive or direct tone or word choice is reflected back towards you, and it might lead to miscommunications as to what your end goal might be. Maybe you're just trying to get somebody to do something quickly, but they might take it as offensive or that you're angry with them. So it's always important to keep what words you choose in mind when you're doing this. Similarly to that tone, there's many different kinds of tones. I just picked a few here to highlight: positive, negative, humorous. It dictates your perception, how the person you're communicating with receives what you're saying. It dictates your credibility. So say, for example, you're in a serious situation and you come to it with a humorous tone, you're laughing, you seem unserious, it might reflect poorly on you. For the future, you might not be perceived as credible in future serious situations, which might damage your standing with some of the people that you're with. And professionalism is part of this tone. It's kind of the overarching theme here, but it's important to keep in mind that for certain situations, you need to recognize what tone is appropriate and which isn't, and adjust that accordingly. So the last of the three that I wanted to talk about, nonverbal and body language. This is one that I feel often gets overlooked in communications. It's incredibly important, given that when you're speaking with somebody and you're speaking to somebody, the only thing that you can really receive back in terms of feedback is their body language, their facial expressions. They're leaning if they look like they're not paying attention, or if they look like they're paying attention a lot and they're surprised at something you just said. It's the only way that you're able to receive feedback in the middle of you talking. So it's important for you to be able to recognize this nonverbal body language, but also be able to convey your own nonverbal body language in a way that is getting a message across to the person that is communicating to you. And that's anything from your posture. If you're leaned over, you look uninterested, or you're looking away, not making eye contact, anything like that. That's all nonverbal body language that conveys a message to the person speaking to you, and may convey the wrong message. You might be interested, but you heard a noise and you got distracted off in the distance, and that's a message that maybe will be perceived the wrong way. But effective communicators are able to recognize each of these three aspects and appropriately stack them together, because they all work together to convey a message from start to finish, where they are choosing the correct words, they have the correct tone, and their body language is appropriate throughout. That's the one way that effective communicators get these three things going. So just before I get into some of the specifics, if you can take anything from those first couple slides, as communicators, we are all storytellers. We craft messages and we deliver them in a way that we feel is right for the situation. So you have to know what you want to say. You have to align it with how it is delivered using things like word choice, tone, and body language. And then you receive feedback on how it is perceived by your audience. You can have a message and deliver it to an audience, but if it's not perceived well, it's all for nothing. It doesn't, there's no point at that point, right? So ensuring that your message is appropriate for the audience that you're delivering to by receiving their feedback is also really important. And this is always used by effective communicators in conjunction with each other. So I'm going to go a little bit more quickly through the academics portion. I think Yoga covered it pretty well. However, some of the key aspects of communications in academics, recognizing that your audiences are groups like professors, peers, and the academic community at large. Say that if you got a piece published in the academic records or the academic journals, you would be communicating to them as well. As we've said, the tone is professional, inquisitive, and I chose the word exhaustive here. The reason why I chose that, I think Yoga talked a bit about being concise in your writing. That was something I struggled with a lot when I was in college, was writing concise. I had papers that were 12, 13, 14 pages long, way too long for the situation. But I did feel as though I was achieving the goal of college, which was to write exhaustive papers about a subject, demonstrating that you understand it wholly, right? Like you know everything about this topic. I'm going to write as much as I can about it. And then you work backwards from there. However, that does change a little bit when you get into the professional world, which I'll talk about in a bit. And as I said, the goals are to demonstrate that you understand the topics that you're talking about. You're preparing yourself for your career. So you're getting there, but you're not quite there. You still have a lot to learn for that. And you're building your confidence in your relationships, which I'll come back to that relationship point in a bit, but that's an incredibly important one there, is building relationships. The two different kinds of communications and academic communications are the written and the spoken. Written being your typical papers, could even be presentations and speeches. This is ways to demonstrate your knowledge. You want to keep things like brevity and word choice in mind. And then spoken is obviously something that I'm doing right now. You want to be thoughtful, you want to be confident, and you want to make sure that you're well rehearsed for this. Effective academic communications is building relationships with all the people that you're going to school with, all of your professors, all these people that later on in life you never know who might be a good connection to have, somebody that you might need something from in the professional world, or will help you get a job, or can help you achieve your professional goals that you can go back to. It's always important to be communicating with people, building relationships with them, and ensuring that they feel that they can trust you, rely on you, and that you're a professional source for them. So it's very important to continue to foster those relationships. In terms of communication in career, this is where things start to get a little bit more serious. The number one thing that my firm and firms beyond and people in the career really drill down is being clear and concise with their language. Yogi showed a great sentence where he pared down some of the words where it was too long and showed how to make it shorter. This is incredibly important. It's no longer, when you're in the professional world, about writing for yourself. You now start writing on behalf of other people, companies, ministries, government institutions, where a mistake where something is too wrong is not about you anymore. Now it's about the brand of whoever you're working on behalf of. So making sure that you are knowledgeable about how to be clear and concise is very important. You're establishing yourself as a reliable source of information for these groups as well. So not only are you writing on their behalf or communicating on their behalf, you're providing them with the information that on the industries that they might not be as tapped into, where they're too busy working on other things that they're doing, and you're responsible for ensuring that they know what's going on in the communications world. And I included to tell the whole story truthfully. I would like to hope that this is a thing that can go without being said, but being truthful on behalf of your clients is incredibly important. There's nothing worse than feeling like you get caught lying about something. I would hope I don't have to repeat that to people, but I thought it was important just to note that when you're advocating on behalf of clients, government institutions, or organizations, you cannot get caught lying and doing something like that. It's always important to be truthful all the time. I included some methods of professional communication because these are some of the things that I do on a daily basis where you start to feel like you're getting more practice. However, there are some things up here that you might not consider to be daily communication that you would have to think a lot about, things like emails, texts, phone calls. As you get into the professional world, everything that you communicate needs to be looked over and polished and bettered in each of them. Even sending a text message should have proper punctuation, should have correct tone and word choice, just to ensure that across all levels you're communicating on behalf of your clients or your groups at the highest level. So I don't say that to scare people. I say that to say, as you start to go into the professional world, you'll realize how much more everything you're doing matters when you're doing it. So I want to talk a little bit about what I do specifically. I work in public relations and public affairs, and as I said, I'm advocating on behalf of clients to achieve political goals or just media goals in general. A lot of what I do is media relations, which is working with reporters who write stories and getting them opportunities to speak with my clients to write an article, hopefully a good article, for them covering something that they're doing. And a lot of that is building relationships with these reporters, and that is rooted in communicating with them on a daily basis through email or meeting with them for coffee and ensuring that our relationship is good and they feel like they can trust me to come to me and say, I want to write a story about your client, or I can come to them and say, I have this great client, you should write a story about them. Without effective communication and without being a trusted source to these people, both for my clients and for reporters, this wouldn't be possible. In addition, on the public affairs side, which is kind of an umbrella term, I would consider myself to be a lobbyist, which is not something I think a lot of people are familiar with here. It's more of a uniquely United States thing. I work very closely with public officials, elected public officials, to get legislation passed, get laws passed that benefit my clients. Either if they're drafted by the public official and my clients really like them, I say, hey, this is great. You have the support of this client. And I do that through communicating with the public official in face-to-face meetings, or by getting articles published that say my client supports this, or writing articles that say we support the public official. There's a variety of different ways. All of it has to be done meticulously through intelligent professional communications. So as you can see here, I have a few methods: news articles, employee and stakeholder communications, and general voter materials as well. So all this to say, it's a very important thing when you get into the public world or the professional world to keep in mind as you move forward. So I'm going to wrap up here. Just want to reiterate that as communicators, we control narratives. Any narrative that you want to control, you have to control from start to finish through the creation of the idea, the delivery of the idea, and what your end goal is. The three things to keep in mind as you go to communicate: prepare, be confident, and be open to feedback. We're not going to be perfect all the time. Be open to people saying that you can do better at certain things. It might not always feel the best when they say that you could do better, but you always will incorporate that feedback for the next time you do it. And if I can leave you all with one thing, it's don't be afraid to fail. Things are hard. Go out there, challenge yourself, and push the boundaries of what you think you're capable of. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our three wonderful speakers. Now, let's, with our short limited time, if you guys have any questions, please raise your hands.
Okay, thank you. My name is Fatima, and I actually have a question for the panelists, but I just asked Mr. Daniel. I always get said that to be assertive is important, but do we always have to be assertive, or we adapt to the situation? Because I don't know how much. Sometimes I feel like communicating, since I have organization, sometimes I feel communicating feels like too demanding, or it feels like I'm too pushy or something. So how much does assertive do we need, and when do we use it? That's it, thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great question. I wish there was one answer to tell you when to be assertive and when not to be assertive. It'd be very easy. I do not think that you always need to be assertive. I think that there are times when you can sit back and assess the situation and kind of just take in information. I think it might have been Dita who had covered it, that active listening, was the initial question. Active listening is an important part of communication as well. And sometimes you don't need to be the one speaking to be able to be communicating. I don't really have an answer of when exactly you should be assertive, but I think that when you feel it is right and you want to be assertive, challenge yourself to do so. Don't let yourself fade into the shadows and let people speak over you, or let yourself feel like you're not being able to get out what you need to get out. That's when you know that you need to assert yourself, right?
Any additional answers from Mbak Dita or Mas Yoga?
I perhaps just a little bit addition to what DJ said. I mean, if if we're talking about being assertive is being firm, then I mean, communication part of the communication, or the main part of the communication, is about the context. So being assertive is generally good. But again, it really depends on the context, like who you're speaking to. Is it your superior? Is it like your director, or like the superior, like 2 or 3 levels above you? And how sensitive is the issue? Could you just, a little bit chill and just be silent and absorb all the things? And how can you read the room, the vibes and the emotion and things? So it's being assertive. I mean, communication is basically a delicate and intricate things. I mean, there's no like one recipe for all, right? I mean, but yeah, it's a good question. So just keep learning. Yeah, we all are still learning here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone here is still learning. Mbak Dita, any? Yes, with you.
Thank you very much for the question, Fatima. I think I can pretty much relate with you, especially when you mentioned about being pushy and you have team. I think I pretty much relate with that, because as a woman, sometimes, especially when we lead something, it can feels like we are pretty much can feel the empathy and sensitive, right? It's like, am I being too pushy or something? So my suggestion is that try to assess the situation. I think what DJ has previously mentioned, I think is really important. Try to understand which one is more important. Is it to get the information delivered or your needs fulfilled, or to keep the organization or what you lead still in a good terms? So sometimes I think it can be in different situations. So I think it will be more important for you to assess the situation. Which one is more important at the time? Is it to get your information or ideas delivered, or your need to be fulfilled, or to keep the organization or the things that you lead in a good term? So I think it's more into understanding the situation and also to listen more and see the situation. I think that's all from me.
Okay, so like, basically it's like to understand the situations you're in and like who you're talking to and also what context you're in it. All right, I hope it helps. Okay, now the next question.
Good afternoon, Kadita, Kayoga, and Kadaniel. My name is Akila. My question is, what are the most effective techniques for improving our communication skills which we may not find in college, school, or communities? Thank you.
Thank you. So, who's gonna start?
I can try and start. Not found in colleges and professional or in communities. I would say to challenge yourself to go into uncomfortable situations where you might feel like you're lacking in those communication skills. I can't give you any specific examples. I think you probably have some in mind. Challenge yourself to go and feel uncomfortable, and that's the only way to really push yourself to get better at those skills and improve those skills. You know, it might feel scary or uncomfortable, but the only way to improve in those areas is to put yourself in those areas and really feel like you need to improve to get better there. So that's what I would suggest.
Pradita, probably.
I think it's pretty much the same because my experience is more into like improving in communities and all. I think it's more into like being more open to any opportunities. So maybe if you feel like you have enough with these communities, you have enough with this school, you have enough with this one, it means that you need bigger pool, right? And I mean, it's like you need to find any other places that you can find. Oh, I think I have to learn from this one. So it's like it's more into like keep exploring, keep finding the places that you think you haven't found before, and also I think I can learn something new from that. So my take is for to find any other places. I think that's all. What
Okay,
about you?
Ms. Yoga, anything to add?
Yeah, I basically agree with my two peers. I mean, DJ started with very excellent points. I mean, started with the areas that you're lacking with or you're uncomfortable with, because the area that where the growth happens the most are the area where you're not uncomfortable with, because growth and comfort just don't coexist, right? So if you are good at speaking in public, then you should learn communication in other areas other than public speaking. If you are like introverted person and or basically just good in navigating a difficult conversation but afraid of speaking in public, then you should do more public speaking. So try to balance that the area that you're lacking at. But the thing is, the skill in public speaking skill and the skill in communicating in difficult conversation, difficult setting, are always needed in whatever settings that you're in. I think so. That's more.
Thank you. I hope it helps. It answers. Okay, great. Maybe we also have questions from our audience online. There's one question from Fiona. So she asked, how can we make sure that we are communicating effectively virtually, preferably for education and professional purposes like interviews? Maybe Mas Yoga as an LPDP awardee.
Okay. I thank you for the question. It's a good question, especially, I mean, we're talking about virtual. I mean, where, okay, I get it. take a step back. So communication basically again about message and impression. And to create impressions on the virtual mode, it's a bit, it's more limited than speaking in the offline setting. So you have to be, I mean, if speak online, it's more about our facial expression, right? I mean, we deploy less body language and things like that. So you have to be careful and adjust your facial expression and tone in addition to your message that you want to get across. So other than that, preparation is always key, just like what the other speakers say. I think that's from me.
Okay, Mbak Dita or DJ?
I think in a virtual setting, it's more into if you want to know how effective is it, then ask. I think because it's the hardest thing in having like you have to speak in virtually is that you cannot really see them, right? So you don't really know how effective your communication is, how they take the messages. So my suggestion is that the first one, ask them. For example, you can add more like interaction with the presentation. For example, at the end of the session, you can put some kind of like quiz or ask questions just to know how many people or perhaps how people perceive your messages. So my suggestion is that the first one is ask, and then the second one you can try to have more interactions in the presentations because it's really hard. You don't see their faces, and most importantly, usually people in online setting will turn their camera off, right? You don't really know, so perhaps you can ask them if you really want to know, or maybe other tools that I can add is perhaps if you are in a like let's say like a talk show or seminars online, you can add some kind of like surveys so that they can fill it. So it's like the answer is to ask them.
Yeah, I would just quickly add that I would recognize being virtually as kind of a barrier to communication and understanding how to overcome that barrier. I would say preparation is key there. If if your camera doesn't work for a day or if your audio isn't working great, you're kind of losing 50% of your ability to communicate with the other person. So preparing to make sure that everything is working appropriately and ensuring that you do the best with what you have is the way to overcome that. I think it's a challenge in itself, but ensuring that you do the best there is how you overcome that.
Okay, thank you. I know that there are still so many things to discuss or have many more questions. We can continue this later after this event. So thank you so much for everyone's coming here online. Thank you so much. Thank you so much also for DJ, Mas Yoga, and Mbak Dita for this amazing knowledge and skills that we learned today. Okay, I'll give it back to Andrea. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Kabe, and thank you so much for our speakers for the wonderful discussion today. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming here today. Thank you so much, everyone who's joining online for tuning in. And earlier, before this event, I asked a trivia question, which was, which of the following is not a key component of effective communication? And the answer is C, ignoring nonverbal cues. Congratulations to Gisela Faudre from YouTube for answering correctly. And if you think today's event is fun, please consider following us on our social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at AT America, and please consider subscribing to our newsletter and YouTube channel as well. And with that, we have reached the very end of today's session, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you at the next At America event. Bye-bye!